I'm Dr. Orion Taraban, and this is PsycHacks, Better Living Through Psychology. And the topic of today's short talk is it gets worse before it gets better. So I give consultations to guys from all walks of life and from all over the world. And in these consultations, we discuss many things. However, one of the most common reasons why guys reach out to me is because they are wanting to change a dysfunctional dynamic in their primary relationship or marriage. Makes sense. Now, if you're one of these guys, I've got both good news and bad news for you. The good news is that it's possible. You can change even long-standing dynamics in your relationship. However, the bad news is that it's very hard to do. It's always easier to do the right thing from the beginning than to do the wrong thing for years or decades and then try to fix the problem. So it's going to be tough. What's more, it's going to take some time. It may not get all the way to where you want it to be, and it will always get worse before it gets better. So a lot of bad news. But as long as you're not in a hurry and you brace yourself for the period of discomfort that comes after you begin to initiate a change, it's possible to alter even deeply ingrained behavior patterns. Now, today, I want to talk about this last caveat, that no matter who or what you're dealing with, it's going to get worse before it gets better. This phenomenon is due to something called an extinction burst. And this is something that all men need to be aware of. The extinction burst is why you absolutely should not go around making changes to a long-standing dynamic casually or half-cocked. Changing these dynamics is something you need to do very strategically, very intentionally, and with a definite plan of action. This is because, among other things, extinction bursts can be very difficult to deal with. This is a term from behavioral psychology, which to my mind has undeservedly fallen out of favor in recent years. To understand what an extinction burst is, let's imagine that we're behavioral scientists running an experiment in a lab. In this experiment, we'll place a rat in a cage with a little lever. The goal of the study is to cultivate a lever-pushing habit in the rat, and to do this, we're going to reward the rat with a food pellet every time he pushes the lever. It won't take long. In its initial exploration of the environment, the rat will probably brush up against the lever and unintentionally trigger the food pellet. However, since food is so reinforcing, most rats will quickly learn that the lever is magic, that pushing it down causes food to appear. It will only take a few reinforcements to cultivate this association in the rat. Now, let's say that we allow this to go on for a few weeks, and then we decide to make a change to the study. The new goal of the experiment is to extinguish the lever-pushing habit we previously cultivated in the rat, and we do this by putting lever pushing on what we would call an extinction protocol. In this case, the protocol is very simple. We just stop rewarding the rat with food no matter what he does with respect to the lever. And of course, we can't inform the rat of this change in writing. We're just going to change the reinforcements and see how long it takes for the rat to get the message. How do you think the rat is going to behave? What's going to happen is that the rat is going to go up to the lever and press it as usual. And when no food appears, he's probably going to look a little confused. He'll cock his head in interest. That's a change. And then he might push the lever again, possibly a little harder this time. And when no food appears again, he might begin to manifest signs of agitation, something approximating fear or anger. And then he's going to go fucking ham on that lever, like, where is my food pellet? And that, my friends, is an extinction burst. It's a dramatic increase in the frequency and or intensity of a behavior that occurs when habitual reinforcement is disrupted. Before the behavior goes away entirely, there will be a period of intense and frequent iteration of that behavior slated for extinction. That's things getting worse. However, if you can get through the extinction burst without reinforcing the target behavior, then things will eventually start to get better. That's because no rat is so dumb that it's going to continue to push that lever indefinitely in the absence of reward. After all, lever pushing holds no intrinsic value for rats. Our little participant only manifested that behavior because of the result of that behavior. Change the result, and you change the behavior. This is the crux of operant conditioning. In the consistent absence of a reward, rats will learn their lesson. Now, before I go any further, if you're liking what you're hearing, please consider sending this episode to someone who might benefit from its message, because it's word of mouth referrals like this that really help to make the channel grow. And you may also consider hitting the thanks button and tipping me in proportion to the value you feel you've derived from this message. I really depend on your support to keep all of this going, and I thank you very much. Back to the lab. Now, the lever pushing behavior might not disappear entirely. A few days later, the rat could see the lever and think to himself, I wonder if the magic lever is still broken. And he'll give it a push just to check. And when no food is forthcoming, he'll leave it alone for a week. And when he checks again, he'll leave it alone for a month, etc. The point is that the target behavior should become less and less frequent as a function of time. However, since these manifestations are much less aggressive and intense than the extinction burst, they're also much easier to handle. But here's the thing. If one day, months and months down the road, we scientists decide to change the reinforcement schedule again, and we decide that we'll go back to rewarding lever pushing behavior with a food pellet, then all we really have to do is reward a lever push with a food pellet once. And that habit of lever pushing will immediately return in that rat in full force, just as if no time had passed at all since that period of regular reinforcement. This is why habits are so hard to break and so easy to fall back into. It's not fair, but that's the way it is. Now, there are several important takeaways here. The first one is the most obvious, but it needs to be said regardless. That is, if you want to target a certain behavior for extinction, if you want a certain behavior to go away, you need to stop rewarding it. In the experiment, the scientists had to stop giving the rat the food pellet in order to motivate him to change his lever pushing behavior. It's not functionally possible to get rid of a behavior that you are still reinforcing. Sounds obvious, right? But you'd be surprised. What might be less obvious, however, is the method of reinforcement. Not all reinforcement is as clear and explicit as a food pellet is. And if you're in a dysfunctional dynamic, chances are good that you have been inadvertently reinforcing the target behavior in ways that you didn't fully realize. Common types of reinforcement that are often unappreciated are attention, interest, emotion, concession, time, and of course, giving people what they want. So that's lesson one. To get a behavior to disappear, you first have to stop reinforcing it. Lesson number two is once you stop reinforcing it, be prepared for some nasty behavior. Whether explicitly or implicitly, the other person is going to be like, what do you mean? You're not going to give me what I want. That's not how this goes. You've given me what I wanted every single time I've done this for the past 10 years. Did you not hear me? Do I need to get louder for you to understand? Where's my food pellet? Do you see? This is things getting worse. And you need to be prepared for this kind of reaction. Because if you buckle under the increased pressure of the extinction burst, you've just made your situation 10 times worse. Because you've started to train your partner to behave monstrously and or aggressively to get what she wants. This goes south real fast. Gentlemen, you have to reward the behavior that you want to see more of. If you reward aggression or withholding or spitefulness or chaos, you will only get more aggression, withholding, spitefulness, or chaos. That is not good for you, and it's not good for your woman. So as hard as it gets during the extinction burst, No matter what you do, don't give in. Trust in behavioral psychology and understand that no rat is so stupid and spiteful that it will persist in an intrinsically unrewarding behavior without reinforcement indefinitely. After the storm, the sun will shine again. And finally, the third lesson is once you get to the other side of that extinction burst, to never, ever, ever, ever reward the behavior that you successfully extinguished again. Not once, ever. A lot of guys follow my advice and things get better. A few weeks, no problems. A few months, no problems. And they think, okay, well, maybe we've turned the page and I can relax my discipline here. Nope. Wrong. Incorrect. You never get to reward that behavior again, period. Because it only takes one reinforcement of a previously extinguished behavior to bring the old habit back in full force. So if you're going to go for it, be prepared to go all the way. Otherwise, don't even bother. What do you think? Does this fit with your own experience? Let me know in the comments below. And if you've gotten this far, you might as well like this episode and subscribe to this channel. You may also consider becoming a channel member with perks like the priority review of comments or booking a paid consultation. As always, thank you for listening.